Have you ever noticed how sharing every detail can feel like letting something precious slip away? It's not just a thought, it's something real. Let's look at this together calmly. In our world today, many feel the need to broadcast their inner lives constantly. Every thought, every plan gets spoken aloud almost without thinking. But if you observe carefully, you might see how this can leave one feeling strangely empty, as if something vital has been lost. Sit quietly in any public space, and you'll hear people sharing deeply personal matters with strangers, as though speaking makes their experiences more real. When you have a genuine moment of clarity, it lives within you like a seed in good soil. It's whole and complete, with its own quiet power. But the moment you rush to tell others, something changes. That living insight gets pulled up before it can take root. You've turned something alive into mere words, and words, however beautiful, are like empty shells after the life has gone. When you immediately speak your plans or realizations, you're choosing the shell over what's living. Some might say sharing is always good, that openness heals. There is truth in connection, but like water that flows best within its banks, sharing needs discernment. There's a deep difference between speaking with someone who truly listens and simply spilling your inner world to anyone nearby. Think about it practically. When you tell someone a goal, what happens? They respond. Perhaps they encourage you or share their own story. In that moment, your mind gets a small taste of recognition. The satisfaction that should come from actually doing the work, not just talking about it. You've used the energy meant for action on the momentary pleasure of being heard. This isn't mysterious. It's simply how our nature works. Talking often replaces doing. You become someone who explains intentions rather than living them. There's something else to consider. When you share constantly, you invite others into your inner space. Each person you tell becomes another voice in your mind. They have opinions, fears, advice, some well-meaning, some reflecting their own limits. Soon, your own clarity gets clouded by all these outside thoughts. I've seen this many times. Someone knows deeply what path to take, but after consulting 10 people, they're confused and stuck. They arrived clear but left lost in others' worries. This is why ancient wisdom values silence so deeply. Many traditions speak of power that gathers in stillness. They weren't being secretive for no reason. They understood how consciousness works. When you keep something private, you allow it to develop fully. Like a photograph in a dark room. If you keep opening the door to show others, the light ruins the image. Your inner life needs that protected darkness to grow properly. Constant exposure stops the process. When you share habitually, you start experiencing life as a performance. You're no longer simply walking in nature. You're composing how you'll describe it later. You're not fully in a difficult conversation. Part of you is rehearsing how to explain it. This creates a divide within yourself, making you a stranger to your own experiences. The one who reports the event is never the one living it. What's more, the more you share, the more you need to share. It becomes like a thirst that's never quenched. You start feeling an experience isn't real until someone else knows about it. You depend on outside validation to feel your life matters. But wisdom doesn't need an audience. Wisdom grows in quiet spaces when you're simply present with what is, allowing experiences to teach you without turning everything into a story for approval. Notice what happens when someone shares too much. Others start feeling they know you completely. Your patterns, your struggles. They categorize you, and you become a character in their story rather than a living, changing person. Worse, you start believing their version of you. You've created a public identity that boxes you in. People expect certain things, and you repeat old stories until you feel trapped by them, imprisoned by the very sharing meant to free you. There's an old idea about working in a sealed container. Transformation needs containment. If you keep opening the vessel to check or show others, you lose the heat and pressure needed for change. This applies to inner growth too. Your struggles, insights, victories. They need the container of privacy to work on you, to change you, to help you become new. open that container too soon, and the transformation doesn't happen. You remain always in process, never fully arriving. People with depth often have a quality of quiet about them, not because they're hiding anything, but because they understand that not everything needs explanation or justification. They live with an inner dignity that doesn't crave constant validation. When they speak, their words carry weight because they haven't been worn out by overuse. Silence gives their speech authority. Compare this to someone who shares everything. Their words become like too much currency, losing all value. Others don't take them seriously because they've shown their inner life is cheap, available to anyone without trust. They wonder why they aren't respected, not seeing they haven't respected themselves first. Let me be clear, this isn't about becoming closed off or deceptive. We need genuine connection. We need to share meaningfully with those we trust. It's about discernment, knowing the difference between sharing that enriches and sharing that drains. Before speaking personally, ask yourself why. Are you seeking true counsel from someone wise? Creating real intimacy with someone trusted? Or just filling silence, seeking validation? Feeding a need for attention? Be honest, and you'll often find it's the latter. That's when practice is needed. Hold it in. Let the experience work on you privately. Let your plans develop in darkness. Let insights ripen before sharing. This isn't repression, it's maturation, allowing things to complete their natural cycle within you before exposing them. When you do this, something shifts. You become more present in your own life. You stop filtering everything through how you'll explain it later. You start actually living instead of narrating. And strangely, when you stop needing others' validation, when you stop scattering yourself, you become more grounded, more truly yourself. Your presence feels solid because it's no longer diluted. People sense this depth in you, even if they can't say why. You become like a deep well, quiet but sustaining, rather than a noisy stream that dries up in the sun. In our shallow age, this depth is revolutionary. This is how you keep your soul whole. Guard it fiercely, as you would anything precious and irreplaceable. Think of nature. A seed doesn't announce its growth. It grows silently underground, gathering strength until it breaks through as something undeniable. Your inner transformations are similar. They need that silent time. When you constantly update others on your progress, you're like a seed that keeps popping up to say it's growing, wasting energy on announcements instead of growth. There's great power in the unspoken, the private, the quietly accumulated. Our culture has forgotten this. We're taught that if something isn't shared, it doesn't exist, that experiences must be broadcast to count. This is backwards. The most important things often can't be shared. They lose their essence when put into words. Your deepest realizations, your most tender feelings, they're too precious for casual talk. When you hold them sacred, they keep working on you, changing you at levels deeper than words can reach. There's also the matter of energy, though I say this carefully. When you share indiscriminately, you attract people who feed on your stories and drama. They don't truly care about you. They care about the entertainment. They're spectators, not participants. By constantly providing content, you train yourself to live for an audience rather than yourself. You become a performer in your own life, a terrible trade, exchanging real experience for hollow satisfaction from those who don't matter. This practice of selective silence requires strength. It goes against social habits. It feels uncomfortable at first. You'll want to fill silences, explain yourself, share, resist, sit with the discomfort. Feel what it's like to have experiences that remain yours alone, thoughts not immediately spoken, a rich inner life that doesn't need constant validation. This is where real power gathers. This is where true transformation happens. This is where you discover who you are beneath all the stories you've told. You'll find you're much more than those narratives ever captured. There's freedom in not having to explain yourself, not having to justify choices, not converting your life into content for others. You simply are, you simply do. You simply experience that simplicity, that directness. No mediation between you and your life. This is what it means to be truly alive. Ancient teachers understood this. When asked about deep truths, one simply held up a flower. No explanation, just the thing itself. This is the quality I mean: direct, immediate, unmediated by the need to explain or get approval. Your life isn't a democracy. You don't need everyone's vote on how to live it. You don't need consensus or approval. You need courage to live by your own inner knowing, to trust your perceptions, to let your life unfold by its own mysterious logic without checking with others. This courage grows in silence, in privacy, in that protected space where you're accountable only to yourself and what you hold sacred. This is where character forms. This is where integrity is forged. What if you stopped broadcasting your life? What if you let experiences simply be, without turning them into stories? What if you pursued goals silently until you achieved them? What if you protected your inner world as fiercely as your home? You might find life becomes more vivid, more real, more yours. You discover depths within yourself you never knew, because you were always skimming the surface for material to share. You'd find silence isn't empty, but full of possibility. You'd understand what wise ones have always known: the deepest truths can't be spoken. The greatest wisdom lies between words, and your soul, precious, irreplaceable, needs protection from the world's noise to grow into its full beauty. Guard your silence. Protect your privacy. Live your life rather than narrating it. This is the path to genuine presence, real power, authentic wisdom. This is how you keep your soul whole in a world that tries to break it into shareable pieces. Remember this well.